once again to discuss Hope Virtual Academy. I can never remember the name. I'm always going to give us a presentation tonight. Pretty much same thing you give the committee. About a 3-hour presentation tonight. So when she gets through, we'll then move on and have the discussion and the vote.
And we'll go. Oh. All right. Did everybody hear that? Are we good? Okay. All right. So Hope Virtual Academy is the name that we're currently working with. So whenever I meet with a homeschool family or a family that's choosing a setting other than a public school for their child, and even the students that I tutor, I ask them the question, when my child leaves my home, I will feel like I have done my job if what? What are your whys? What are your whys? So what I'm asking you to do is think about the kids in your life, whether you have kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, whatever that looks like, or the kids that we work with here and the kids we're going to be doing ministry with. We will have done our job for these kids if when they are adults, what? Our whole purpose here. What are we, is it that they can multiply 100 problems within 2 minutes? What is our goal for these kids when they graduate? I mean, it's a question that frequently I get parents that go, well, I've never actually thought about it. When they graduate, they'll get a diploma, and then they'll be graduated. But what does that even mean in this day and age? You can go to the next one. So these are actual answers that I've gotten. So the first one says, understanding of personal finances, Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior, and ability to work hard and apply their gifts. I don't know about you, but I don't see anything in there about chemistry standards, multiplication standards, how fast they read, what type of essays they write. Next one was more academic. It says scholarships for college, good grades, and knows how to learn. So in my mind, then that means their high school years should be spent practicing their SATs, getting their scores high enough to get scholarships. Their essay writing for high school should be built upon how to apply for scholarships, what colleges will accept what scholarships, and it should be directed towards that, as opposed to taking electives that some of these kids have to take that have no application to where they're actually trying to go. Specifically, what college are they going to go? What are they actually looking to do as adults? And then the third one, and you can read them all, but the third one says able to balance a budget and live debt-free, ability to own their own business, and following Christ anywhere. Most of that isn't taught in our high schools anyways. So just those 3 examples, you can read through the rest of them too, and this will be online, like I said. But when we look at our goals for our kids, and we look at the goals for the kids in the community or our grandkids, what is being taught and how it's being taught and how they're being pushed through, and the initiatives that are being pushed through, typically don't fit. So that is where the stem for this program came from. That's why it's a ministry, which we got a question last week about why is this a ministry? That's why. So now we're going to go through each of the grades and talk about what this actually looks like on a day-to-day basis. So this is the pre-readers. So this is a tentative schedule, and this is when we're fully functioning, like Jason talked about last time, when we have our after-school program, when we have our IEPs up and running. So this is what a full schedule would look like. These are pictures from my classroom out in Washington when we had, before I moved to Georgia. And then this is what they actually get. So if you want to click on the actual, maybe. There we go. You want to click on the actual classroom here. This is what the students get every week. So when we talk about them coming into class, opening up their laptops, or they're at home and they're opening up their laptops, they actually receive this in an email form, the pre-readers, each week. So essentially, they just walked into their classroom, okay? So each piece of their classroom is embedded with what they would get if they were in person. So for example, up here at the top, the ABC chart, when they click on that, it takes them to whatever episode we're on, where they're actually learning phonics and songs, and it's different things each week. So if they were in person, when we get to this part, they'll actually be doing that with us, as opposed to doing it virtually. If they were at home, they'll be doing it virtually. You can go back to the pre-reader classroom. So for one of the things that I was asked quite a bit was what does this actually look like compared? So this is their math book right here. This is Horizon Math that they actually get a textbook, so they're actually writing in a textbook. Even the virtual students are writing in a textbook. So if you want to click on the math book, I pre-record, so every week, I pre-record, and you can push play.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are in Horizon Book 1, and we are on page 55, see it down here at the bottom. And this is lesson 25, and we're working with place value. So place value is the value of each number where it's at, okay? So if we're going to think about it in our chart, remember we've got our ones column. Here's our chart.
So these kids have been working on this for a while. This is not their first lesson on this.
Right? And if we take a number and we put that number in a different spot, it's worth something different, right? It's not worth the same.
You push pause.
Just because it's a 2 or just because it's a...
So for example, kids are doing that lesson. If they're in person and Susie gets stuck on number 2, what we talked about them coming to us, or if they get them wrong, we have the physical manipulatives. So that's what we're talking about, how when we say, well, if they're struggling with it, or if we know, like I talked about before, my Savannah doesn't do great with the virtual. She does way better with stuff hands-on. So she still, if she was a pre-reader, would come into class and see her items on the whiteboard, and she knows those are the things she needs to accomplish that day. But when she gets to math, she won't watch the lesson. She'll come and get the blocks out and physically do it. So that's the difference when we talk about what that looks like in hands-on and or in person. So will you go back to the Hope Virtual Academy presentation? So we were asked quite a bit about the reading. So one of the programs we use is called HeadSprout. We'll go to one of these, whichever one you want to go to first. Yeah. We use Reading Eggs and we use HeadSprout. So these are both programs that the public schools use as well. They usually use them for reading intervention or ELA, pullouts, different programs like that. You can push play. This is an example. So this is lesson 2. Excuse me.
Now we will learn more new sounds. The sound these letters make is and. Listen. And to hear the sound the letters make, click on the spaceship. And. 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 And click on and
It's pretty cool, huh?
Help the worm get home. If you are not careful, the worm will have to start again. Every time you see and click on it. Wow! And and
Okay, you can go to the other video.
and
I know. And, and both preschoolers in here are fully engaged. So when I get a student, and we'll go through the next one in just a second. When I get a student, what's neat about this program is the first thing they do when they log in, any student, and this goes up through 5th grade, they log in, they take an assessment right on the computer. If the student isn't familiar with the mouse, I'll sit next to them and help them maneuver and get used to that first. And then they take the assessment, and it places them where they need to be. This goes all the way through reading comprehension. So I have had great success, and they're proven to increase test scores and reading comprehension scores. But the program also comes with where you can have it tuned into a headset. So there comes a point where they're reading out loud, and it actually stops them if they're not pronouncing the words correctly. So how do we teach reading while I'm teaching chemistry? There you go. With that said, we still plan to have, we've had volunteer teachers who want to come in and help read with the kids. It won't be all on the computer, but a lesson a day of this gives them the lesson where they're at, because I can guarantee you in a classroom of 30 students, they're not all at their same reading level. So I even think in a public school system they should be doing this, but that's neither here nor there. But so this is the next step. After they've learned their letters, they've learned how to blend 2 sounds, then they go into actually blending words.
let's learn to sound out words. This is how you sound out a word. Listen, I'll say each sound as the finger touches it. Then I'll say the word fast. Ran. Watch and listen again. Ran. Now you say each sound for as long as the finger touches it. Then say the word fast.
So if nobody said it, the mic would have picked it up, and they would have made you repeat the lesson.
Let's play with friends.
Right?
Owl and listen. Real. Click on who said it.
Good job.
Like you did.
Okay, we can go back to the whiteboard. So that's some examples. These pictures down here are actual what's going on in the classroom. So this one down here was one of my teachers. This was Miss Heather. And every day we do calendar. They were currently in a unit where they were reading some different authors. So they check out books, they take them home. They have to read them 3 times with their parents where they check them off on the bookmark and they bring them back. Just kind of the same types of homework that you would normally see. It just would be on their whiteboard to do that. And then the next picture, so this was during our biology year, and so they were outside collecting bugs and building habitats for their bugs while the older kids were inside dissecting. And then the last picture, this was during a physics year, and they were building different ramps for different supplies. So now we talk about what this looks like in person. So we have the blocks that have the different letters on them with cards for the kids who need to physically do it. They would pull this out. We would look at what lesson they're on. We would match it up with the lesson they need to do, and they could physically sit there and do it. Or sit with the teacher that's volunteering, or myself, or one of the other staff, based on what our numbers are. So that's what that looks like in person. The orange book right here, so it just says below it 1 page. That is a curriculum that we use called Handwriting Without Tears. So Handwriting Without Tears, and then there's their Building Writers series. And what's neat is this Building Writers series, for any of you who've been in education and have taught writing, it literally is a step-by-step how to write. So it'll say one page up there, and they'll know what page they're on because we've been doing it consistently. But it actually walks them through, gives them the prompts, walks them through how to write their paragraphs. It's very, very directed in that way. And then it comes with a journal. And the kids are always given the option that if you don't like the prompt here, they can see me during one of our teacher check-ins and get a different prompt that fits with what they're actually interested in, as long as they're doing the same. Like this one was reading information and answering in complete sentences. So they're always welcome to grab a different text and do the same thing. So they have a handwriting book, they have a building writers book in the younger grades. When they get to the older grades, it's all project-based as opposed to following a scripted curriculum. We can go to the next slide. So this is the assisted readers. These students can all read. They still need assistance with it, but they are able to read. So in the first 4 weeks of class, their whiteboard up here had pictures on it with what these items were. And then once they showed me that they knew how to read them, now it's all switched to words. So it didn't start this way. These aren't second graders I threw in there and said, okay, figure out what's on your whiteboard. We built to this. And what we do is the first 2 weeks, there's 2 assignments. By the week 3, there's 3 assignments. By week 4, there's 4 assignments. And once they prove they can do them, we increase to a full load. So it takes them one cycle to get to that. So they do a gratitude journal. They have the building writers, their phonics lesson, their Horizon Math, which is the same thing, but they're so under 3rd grade all do Horizon Math. There's a pre-K, there's a K, there's a 1, 2, and then when they hit 3rd grade, they switch over to teaching textbooks, which I'll show you when we get to the 3rd grade classroom. But these guys are all in Horizon, so I have pre-recorded lessons for all of them in their book. So when they log into their classroom and they click on it, they go to their lesson. That's part of the individualized part. At the bottom, you can see that Miss Heather, I wish she was still with me, but she ended up having a baby and had to stay home. But this was that classroom, and you can see this is them doing in person while the other kids were virtually doing, and they were building little mobiles using Eric Carle books. But you can kind of see what it actually looks like in person. And then each of these books on the shelf, when you click on them, they actually read the book out loud to you. They take you to a teacher that's reading the book. So those students are still able to hear books being read with fluency and variation of tone and all of the things they need for literacy. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the 3rd and 4th grade classroom. I didn't put the 5th and 6th grade classroom on there because it's very similar. It's just at a different level. But this is the 3rd and 4th grade classroom, what it looks like. For example, so this is they do a lot of research in 3rd and 4th grade. I hammer research hard, and they get to research their topics, but we hit it hard because if we lay a foundation for it, it's super easy when they get older. So they have fun with it, they enjoy it. But this is the same, so this is still in that physics unit, and these are the same blocks, but these are the 3rd and 4th graders moved up to the next level, and you can see they had to build something that was at least 1 foot tall that held a marble for a certain amount of time. So that's the STEM piece of it, where they moved to the next level in their physics. So that image we saw where the little girl was outside collecting bugs, these were the 5th and 6th graders. They each had to come, they were given a part of a cell, and they had to come dressed up as their cell, and then they acted out cell anatomy and what the different parts were, and they were given cards where they had to actually regenerate cells and talk about how the cell membranes work. And then this was one of their research projects. That project was done right after I moved here, and nobody wanted to quit the program. So I was flying back and forth, meeting them at a Hagen's, which is like Ingles here, and we were meeting in the coffee area doing presentations. So that's pretty funny. And then this one down here, they're actually building with one of our electricity kits, and they're actually building different cells of energy. So, and then it's kind of hard to see, but if you click on the classroom here, it'll blow up. And so you can see in this classroom, it's all embedded. So if you notice right here where it says writing class and it gives the times, that is the time on that day that I'm live online teaching a lesson. So those kids all log in through Zoom and sit there and watch me live teaching a lesson. At the Crest campus, those kids will just gather around the table, the kids will be live, and we'll all be doing a lesson together. So they're still getting live instruction, which I think is something that was kind of misunderstood, is that it's not like they're sitting at a computer all day, every day. They're still getting live instruction, but they can keep moving on with their day at their pace. And then, I can't see it from here. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so if you want to click on the vocabulary words here, for those of you who have taught or have had kids, some of you know about Wordly Wise. Wordly Wise is a vocabulary curriculum that has been proven to increase SAT scores, college admittance test scores. It really just exposes the kids to 10 to 20 new vocab words every week. Some of them they know, some of them they don't. It's usually in a book like this. What we've done is we've taken it instead and put them on slides so that the kids actually interact with the words. And then the work that's right below that is work that they do with those words. And they pick 3 words a day, and they go through and they do different things with them where they're writing sentences. They have to use them in different ways, things like that. So as opposed to sitting with a textbook. Now, if they were in person, they would be doing something like these, where they actually take the cards and sort them. So for those kids, like my Elizabeth, who she just likes to get her book work done. She has almost a photographic memory, and she just goes through there and gets it done. So she would probably choose to just click on here, do it, and be done. For those who would like to sit on the floor on a rug and sort cards, more like my Abigail, they would take these out and actually read them and sort them out into pieces. And then they would choose a partner to come with the answer sheet and go through here and check them. If they get more than 2 wrong, they have to come and get me. Sometimes their partner they've chosen can sit there and go, oh, I see what you did. You mixed this one and this, and it's amazing. They just help each other. So everything that they're doing up here, there's an option to do it with physical stuff instead, which is why I brought all this for you guys to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. Okay. I'm going to go back to the Hope Virtual Academy curriculum. One more back, there you go. And we'll go to the next slide. So the 5th and 6th grade are just the next level up. They have very similar work. So this is what, right now, this is my live teaching schedule. We're in 3 time zones, so this is what my craziness looks like. When people ask me, what time do you have to be where? Yeah. That's why you often will get, let me get back to you. So you can kind of see every grade, so 3rd and 4th grade are color coordinated with orange, and then gray teacher check-ins, they're welcome to come to and get my help. But during the orange times, they are required to be live in a classroom. If they were in person with us, they would be required to be at the table with us. I know it looks complicated. It's not. The 1st graders have it all figured out. It's not that complicated. So you can go to the next slide. This is what it looks like when I hand it out to people. This is all people want to see, their time zone and what time their kid needs to be where. So these kids, we use Google Classroom. So they log into Google Classroom on Monday. They download their classroom. They know what their work is for the week. If they know they're having a sleepover on Tuesday and won't be home on Monday or on Wednesday, then they will get their work done for Wednesday ahead of time. And they know what's expected every day. They have this down to a science. It's amazing. Okay. You can go to the next one. So these are our middle schoolers. I wanted you to see some examples of what it actually looks like in practice. So over here, this is one of our book club classes. So this was out in my yard. And they get to choose, I choose the genre, I choose 5 books, and then they have to pair up in groups of 3 or 4 and all read the same book, and then they have to do a project on it together. So that's them out reading their book and getting their plan ready. The middle one, so Jenna was a student of mine, she still is a student of mine, and she's doing a spelling test. Lizzie's giving her spelling test while she's actually feeding a goat. She had premature baby goats, so she had a goat in class with her. and she was feeding her baby goat while giving Jenna a spelling test. And then this was, these students are learning how to write thesis statements using apples to apples. So we play apples to apples together. I don't know if you guys know what apples to apples is, but you choose a card. You have cards in your hand. So the card will say smart. And then you have cards in your hand, and you have to choose a card that goes with it. And then the judge chooses which is the best card. Well, what we did is we do this multiple times a year, is they take their choices, and they have to turn those into thesis statements and then write a paper on them. And the kids love it. They have no idea what they're doing, but they know how to write a 3-pieces thesis in a matter of minutes. And then you can go to the next slide. So this is the middle school classroom. What we're going to highlight first is this teaching textbooks right here. This is an example of a math lesson.
But it turns out these symbols aren't used very much at all in algebra or more advanced math. Algebra actually has its own special way of writing multiplication and division. In math, the way of writing something is called notation. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about algebra notation, but it's also the way we write things in even more advanced math. In algebra, instead of writing 5 multiplied by x like this, the way it's done is you just put the 5 and x right next to each other, like this. So using proper algebra symbols, if you have an equation like 5 times x equals 35, the proper way to write it is 5x equals 35. And there are several advantages to doing it this way. Just pushing the 5 and x together takes up less space, and that helps because you know algebra problems can be pretty long. It's also less confusing because the old multiplication symbol, the old time symbol from arithmetic, it actually looks a lot like an X, so that can confuse you. Now let me ask you a question. Which is the correct way to write the equation 4 times x equals 24?
See, and then ask you a question, and you have to figure it out. You're like,
That's right.
see, and
What
it's kind of fun.
do you remember about writing a number multiplied by an x?
So I'll just pause it, okay? So then, if you want to do the practice,
We need to solve this equation by undoing
Will you push pause?
3x equals 3/5. Okay?
Okay, so what's neat is up here in the corner, you can see it says first taught in lesson 6. So this real time, there's a grade book in the corner. I can see the grade book at all time. So all the students are at their own level. They take a math assessment before I place them each year. They are in real time doing their lesson. If they get one wrong, they have to try it, and we have this chart. They have to try the three method, and one of them is to go back and watch the lesson 6 and watch how to do it. There's also these little hint bubbles up here in the corner they can click, but it'll come down and talk to them. There's a couple different things. The practices are directly related to the lesson they're in, and then it goes down and it does a spiral approach where it goes through the last 5 lessons that they've learned. So this is, when you ask, how do I teach all the math at one time? There it is. So they're going through, doing it, the same idea. If they're struggling, we have manipulatives. If they go through here and they know if they get less than an 80%, they have to come and see me, and we go through and we figure out what happened, or we redo the lesson. So it's 80% or higher, or you redo the lesson. You can go out of that. So this is, go ahead and click on the classroom. So this is what one of the classrooms looks like. You can see the times they need to be in class with me. And then go ahead and click here. The word class. So this is a unit we're actually working on right now. And what we're doing is we're going through, go to the second slide of this. We're going through and we broke up history into different time periods, and each of our students was given a theme. And so we started creation, and we're working all the way to current day. Go to the next slide. And each of the students was given one of the themes, and they have to go through and find that occurrence in every single time period. And then we're making this master sheet on the floor. So they're actually going through, they're writing a paragraph about each of their event in their time period, starting at creation all the way through, and figuring out when that happened in history. And what they'll get to, they don't know this yet, but what they'll get to is the fact that it started off being longer gaps, and now our cycle of repetition of these occurrences is growing closer and closer and closer together. And so they'll start noticing, once we get it all laid out, they had to make these little 4x4 icons. We call them trading cards. They had to make these 4x4 icons with a paragraph on the back, and then we lay out the timeline, and they go through and they put all of their pieces where they go on the timeline, and then they stand back, and when they see this massive timeline, and go, and we just talk about it. What do you notice? What do you see? What are your patterns that you notice? And it's amazing what they figure out, which I wish I would have known, how often this stuff happens. So this is the unit we're actually in right now. You can go to the next slide. And then go to the next slide. And then, so it's not like they get this massive assignment and they have no idea what to do. So they will have 6 class sessions with me during this time where I'm teaching on different time periods, what happened during different time periods. We're talking about what complacency looks like, what genocide looked like. And we've been studying world history this whole year, so they already have some ideas to go with. And then the assignments are, the projects are broken down into specific days. So they have to turn in this assignment on each of those days with specific things done. So that's what's on their whiteboard, is it says complete 5 events. So they know what project they're on. One of our projects usually takes between 4 and 6 weeks. So they kind of fall into a groove of knowing, okay, I need to get this next step done, I need to get this next step done. And that's what that looks like. Okay, you can go back to the main presentation. So that's the math, that's the classwork. Our middle schoolers also do spelling and vocab still. Once they get to high school, they do Latin and Greek, and then their foreign language. These are pictures of them actually working down here. These guys over here are actually building a board game. So during this unit, they had been studying biology. So they took their biology terms, and they had to make a board game for the elementary kids to play. So they're creating my curriculum for me. It's beautiful. So that's what they're doing. These boys did not want to read this day, and so they're out. We negotiated. They had to sit on. They could be outside anywhere they wanted because they didn't want to be around the younger kids, but they had to be reading their book out loud. And so they actually have a recorder. You don't see it, but there's a little recorder going, and they're recording themselves reading their book, taking turns. But they didn't have to be with the little kids that day. So that's when we talk about, well, my senior isn't going to want to hang out with 4-year-olds. Yeah, sometimes they don't. And so you let them find their space and let them get their work done. All right, you can go to the next slide.
Show multiplication,
Or we can
and
watch
they
math
use
again.
this symbol to show division. But
So this is what high school looks like in practical life application. These guys, it was actually very impressive. So they had to build these bridges. They had to design, and maybe some of you have done this in school or seen this be done, but they have to design these bridges. And we start off with spaghetti, and they have to see how much they can get their spaghetti to hold, and they get so many feet of masking tape to make their spaghetti hold something. And they build things, and we talk about trusses and distributing weight, and this is all during our physics unit. And then they move into doing toothpicks, and they get a certain amount of weight of glue, and they build it with toothpicks. And then they move to balsa wood. And this kid right here, he to this day is still intriguing to me. I would be curious what he ends up doing. But him and his brother ended up starting a business where all they do is go around and work on people's engines, and they make really good money doing it. And he's a high schooler, but he made a bridge I couldn't break. And he followed the rules, but he developed these tunnels within tunnels, and we couldn't break it with anything that we had. So, I mean, the things that they learn is just impressive. This gentleman right here, Lauren, I've had him for 6 years, and he went from, when he entered with us, he was a homeschool kid, and I have his mom's permission to share this. He entered with us at 4th grade, completely unable to read, didn't write. Life had just gotten away from them, and they didn't do anything. So we spent the first 2 years, we didn't teach reading at all. We just taught him to learn. And he just did projects with us. He assisted with my younger kid classes, so he didn't go to any of his grade level classes. He just came in and assisted me with the boys in the younger kid classes and sat through all the reading lessons and helped me with all the younger kid classes. And now he is in dual enrollment and getting A's in college. And he's like my little, I really like them. So that there's many different ways to do it. You don't have to put them at their grade level. You know, that's the beauty of the joint classes, is you can put them where they need to be, and they're absorbing it from each other. And these 3rd graders that have heard biology 3 times by the time they're 9th graders, they can just do the projects because they've heard it 3 times. You can go to the next. So now we're back to this is what we started with last week, is just looking at what our goals are and what our purpose is and where we're actually going with this. The vote isn't about whether or not this fits for your child. Whether or not this fits with your child is more of a one-on-one conversation that we need to have. We need to actually meet with your child. If your child's thriving in the setting they're in, it's probably not for them. It's for the other kids that aren't. It's for helping other people. It's not necessarily for your kid. What we're voting on is whether or not this is a ministry that the church wants to take on and launch with. So I have the packets from last week. If you didn't get one, we still have some up here with the tuitions in them and the mission and anything like that. So there we go. Questions? That's a whole lot of information. Any questions? Dennis. You're going to the mic.
You know, we discussed last week that either a parent or some representative of the child comes in and teaches, they got to have, what, 40 hours a year?
So depending on the grade, they do have to have parent volunteers. So that parent volunteer hours is family hours. So that can be a grandparent. Yes, they will have background checks. Yes, they will not be left alone with the children. Yes, I mean, all of the standard children's ministry protocol. But that's not necessarily that those parents need to come in during that 8 to 3 hour and sit with kids and work with them. We're going to need help getting, I mean, the awning on the back of the building needs to work. There's stuff outside that needs to be done. There's maintenance that needs to be done. There's going to be field trips that need to be gone on. I plan to have market days, which is where the kids have a class economy where they're earning money and they have to hold these market days. I'm going to need help with setup and managing the money for that. And I mean, there's and. So it's not volunteer hours in the classroom working with the kids. It's volunteering hours keeping this program running.
Who pays for that background check? The person doing it or the facility?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question. That's a Tina question. Tina, you're live watching this. Text somebody. Okay. Okay, so that was one of the pieces that I think is going to be handled when we talk about voting. Something to understand is that part of this is I'm merging my school, Diligent Direction, with Hope Virtual Academy, which is already self-sustaining. So up front, we're actually not going in the hole because we're just merging it together. You're just giving me a place to take these kids. And we already have kids ready to enroll.
While I'm standing here, let me go ahead and other budget items that I had. I think the preacher said, you know, we would absorb the utilities and insurance. Insurance is no big deal. The utilities, when he said we'd already budgeted the church. We budgeted what we paid last year into this year's budget. So basically that church was not functional and minimum bills, so we may expect higher utility bills this year. I just want everybody to be aware of that.
Well, part of
also had a water leak that run our water bill up for about 3 months. So we got that repaired too.
Well, and my understanding was that it's actually based off of when the church was fully functioning as well.
The budget, the school will be self-supporting. The things that was handed out last week with tuition, that pays for everything. The only thing that we're looking at as a church is utilities and insurance. That's it.
I was wondering, with you opening this up, you have to announce it to the community, would you have to upgrade the power source, everything, or is everything up to code, or we're gonna have to bring it up to code?
We've been, Maine might be able to answer that a little easier at the moment.
Everything's good right now for what the amount of people we'll have in there. We might later on, the only part is this old sanctuary, because all the electrical is on a fuse panel instead of a breaker panel.
I can't hear you, go to the mic.
Mike ain't on. Hello.
You wasn't aiming.
But I honestly got to thinking about this in a different way other than just a school. I got to thinking about it as a ministry of the church, you know, and it might be that there might not be a person in this room that has a child in that school. I don't know. It may be. I got a granddaughter that needs some help. I'm looking for some way to help her. It may work out and it may not. I don't know. But, you know, when we come together here as a church, it was like, you know, so many things that we didn't know, we didn't understand, and we didn't know how it was going to happen. But I think we all can sit here and agree now it was the best thing we ever done for both churches. We lost some people and we done some things, but God's blessed it, nevertheless. I mean, we went from a budget to nothing to nearly a $500,000 budget in 2 years. And the thing about it, God's meeting it as well. So, you know, and I was thinking about this. You know, who really needs a Christian church? And Jesus said that he came for the sick. He said that the healed don't need a doctor, but the sick do. You know, and these kids may become, they may be somebody that's living in a home that, you know, can't afford anything else, or they come there for whatever reason, and their family, their whole family might get saved through the process of it. You know, my hope is that it'll be a ministry and it won't be just something that'll just educate the kids. Yes, I want that to happen, but I also want it to be something that God's in, that we minister to the families of the people that come there that don't come here every day. You know, and I'm all for it. I don't need no other thing. I don't need no vote. I can just tell you right now, you can count mine as yes, because I feel like it's a wonderful opportunity for the church. I feel like it's a ministry that can expand and go, and I can see this thing going. Ain't no telling where it'll go, you know, over the next few years. And I don't want to be so selfish that I want to say, well, it ain't going to benefit me. It doesn't matter if it benefits me. If it benefits the kingdom of God, I'm all for it. Okay? That's all.
Anybody else?
Okay, anybody else? Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry. Okay.
Come on to the microphone.
Not a lot of people, can you hear me? Not a lot of people here I've met yet. Me and my partner, we joined here a little short of a year ago. But I know the question came, is God going to be in this? And I know that you guys are here, and I know that God is here. I'm more than convinced that he's in this building. Majority of the time I've been here with our pastor and with the services that I've found here, seeing the world as a parent of a 3-year-old it's scary thinking, you know, he's gonna grow up here and, oh, here he is. But a lot of weight is off my shoulders, and I can speak for both of us, off of both of our shoulders. Don't touch that. Knowing that there's a program like this that I can send him to outside of the real world to grow him and teach him, and that's why I bring him to this church. That's why I bring my family to this church, because I know God's in it, and I don't know much of you, and I know God's in you. I can feel it, and I just wanted to let you guys hear that, a testimony, a spoken word of it. That's how I feel about it. As a parent with a child who plans on putting his kid in this program, that's how I feel. I support it, and I'm gonna write yes on that paper.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments?
Yeah, actually, our calendar. Am I off? She asked if this will start by September. We actually, in the paperwork, there's a calendar, but we'll actually start in August. But yes, one way or another, this program is going to run. It's just whether or not Fellowship is taking it on as a ministry.
Anything else? I was too, Lynn. Okay, anything else? Okay, once again, it's been said 2 or 3 times tonight, and it got all bent out of shape last week. We, as Fellowship Baptist Church, are voting tonight for the church to take on this as a ministry to Fellowship Baptist Church. We're not here tonight to say, yes, I want my child to go. Yes, I want my niece to go.